recording in progress.
I don't consent.
Three. Shall I count us in?
Yep.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome to this YouTube premiere for Altrincham Football Club. Very pleased to say we have 4 members of the Altrincham Football Club board at our disposal today. And thank you very much for the questions that you have sent in. This is a very exciting time for Altrincham Football Club, probably the most exciting period in its history, as we're on the eve of our first ever game as a full-time professional club. With that excitement also comes some concerns, and we wanted ahead of the season to give you an opportunity to ask a question to the board about everything that is going on at Altrincham Football Club at the moment, and there is a huge amount. It's a massive change period. So to kick us off, we've got our co-chairman Bill Waterson, who's going to position this premiere and also introduce the 3 board members that are going to accompany him on this call.
Thanks very much, Brian, and hello everyone. As Brian says, we're on the verge of history tomorrow, a day that I was never sure was going to come in all my years of supporting this club. Our first game as a full-time professional outfit, our first season in the National League with that status. And it's a testament to the strength of this board and the work that we've done over the last few years that we managed to get to this point. And of course, the work that Rob Esteva has been doing with Phil Parkinson and Neil Sorville. It's a huge change that we've been through. We have rightfully become a professional full-time outfit on the pitch. Off the pitch, we've seen a big evolution as well, but I wouldn't claim that we're at the same level of professionalism as we are on the playing field. But we have to go through that same growth to get to that status off the pitch as well. We're going through a number of growing pains at the moment, and a lot of your questions reflect some of the challenges that we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months and the challenges that face us as we go forward. But the key thing is, and many of you recognise this too, the progress that we've made to get to this point is significant. We know we've got a lot of hard work to do, and we're ready to take on that challenge and that mantle. Back to you, Brian.
Thanks, Bill.
I should just introduce my colleagues. That's the one thing I should have done now. My apologies. John Coyne, commercial director, retail director, behind the launch recently of what many people are calling our best away shirt ever. Sab McKenzie, partnership director, sponsors director, runs a business club, highly successful business club, has been responsible for bringing in all of the sponsorship money that we're seeing for this season and for next season too, in many cases. Huge progress that we've made there as well. And in his first outing, our new signing as stadium director, Chris Hamlet from Armstrong Projects, has worked with us in the past. The VP lounge that sits over John Coyne's shoulder is pretty much Chris's first engagement with the club, and there's many more to come. So we're strengthening the board, and we've got 3 of those great luminaries with us today, and we're looking forward to answering these questions.
Thanks very much, Bill. Let's crack on with the questions. The first one comes from Phil James, who's a long-standing Altrincham fan who had very serious heart surgery at the start of the year, but thankfully is recovering from that and has been returning to games recently. Great to see you at the games recently, Phil, with your wife Jill. And Phil's question is, has the club agreed a date for Jake Malt's testimonial match, and who will be the 2 sides, e.g. Jake's former Alti teammates versus present Alti, or something else?
Thanks, Phil. And it is great to see you back at the ground, and we look forward to seeing you at every game this season. Now, we need to sit down with We're committed to doing this like we did with Sean last season. We need to sit down with Jake and work out what's best for him and how we fit that into the schedule. Rob, who sorted out the Sean testimony, the details around the Sean testimony, will be sitting down with Jake, therefore, to work out what's best for him and when we do that. So further details on that will be announced as they become available, but it will happen for sure.
Thank you, Bill. We were told 12 months ago that the Puma deal was brilliant for the club. Has this been the case? And if so, how does it compare to previous? Is this the case now that the club will abandon local suppliers and just work with national ones? That's a question asked by Adrian Dunleavy.
I can pick that one up, Brian. Thanks, Adrian, for the question. Good question. I mean, at the end of May, just gone, we were able to analyse the numbers for the last financial year, and that coincided with our first year with Puma. I mean, by some distance, it was a record year for replica sales, but not just replica shirts and shorts and socks through Puma, but also the leisure wear range, the training range. So record sales across that. I'm certain that the shirt this year, Bill alluded to at the start there, I think the overwhelmingly positive feedback on both the home and away shirt, and in the first month of sale we're 22% up on last year, which is great considering the rise in shirt sales last year. So absolutely delighted with with how it's gone with Puma and the take up, and big thanks to everyone who's continued to support us on that through purchasing. Retail in general is fairly unrecognisable from I think we're 900% up in terms of growth since June 2020. So in a 2-year period, that's pretty phenomenal in any business. I've said it before, if we could get somebody working full time within retail for us, we'd be much more efficient. We'd be able to get a wider product range. I think the second question there was around whether we'd use national or suppliers going forward, or would we have an emphasis on local suppliers? Well, the recent leisure wear range that we launched, that many of you have seen with the sort of circle designs, that's done through our partners Red Soda, who are in Stretford, and that's drop shipped directly through them. That's another example of working with a local provider and a partner within the club. Also, I think I was doing the maths yesterday. I was chatting to our kit man around how many bottles of gin and rum we've sold in the last 12 months, and that's distilled in Altrincham. That's working with a local provider again. So it's not about us sort of getting rid of local suppliers in favour of national. That's not the case. We've got a really nice mix, and we'll continue to do what's best for the club moving forward, but also with a hint of continuing working locally, and there's 2 examples of doing that.
Thank you, John. Mark Rogerson asks the next question. Mark asks, have you considered starting a pie and a pint offer on match days? Buy a drink at the bar and pay for a pie at the same time, get a voucher and collect your pie.
That's a good question. I'll take that one. Great idea. Thank you very much, Mark, for the suggestion. Yeah, I think it's definitely something we look at bringing in this season. It could be something we look at doing at fan zone. We're going to talk about later on. We're currently working really hard in that area about making sure that people get the level of service that we want to provide at the football club, particularly on match day and also non-match day. It's really important to us, but it's a great idea. I think there's lots of ways, we can enable that to happen. The technology now is really improved in terms of, you could, buy in advance online, get John to do it online for us, get a little thing going on retail there, another job for Jonathan. But yeah, no, it's a great idea. And I love suggestions like that coming in. We have Adele, who's our events and hospitality manager. She's been with us since sort of January, February. She's really getting into the groove now and hitting it. We've got different tickets available now for match day. Go online and have a look. From your season ticket, we've upgraded. You can upgrade yourself. There's premium, lots of different offers, but that's certainly something we would look at. And thank you very much, Mark, for the idea. I'll be getting my pint. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Sam. Next question comes from Sumit Ricky Mandal, and Sumit asks, states, it's great to see the development of Altrincham FC for this season and beyond. What are your main targets for this season?
So the 5 years that Phil has been manager, we've improved on the previous season. and we would like to keep that progression going. So, a top 10 finish, for example, would meet those objectives. We've got to keep progress. You have to keep moving forward in non-league, or else you slip backwards. And we've seen the consequences of that in the past. So it's a bit of a step into the unknown this first full-time season. But our expectation, our hope would be that we continue to progress our league position based on previous years. We move forward a little bit, and it'd be nice to have a cup or a trophy run. We're not greedy.
Thanks, Bill. Next question comes from Emmanuel Serrano. It was really good to see the whole Serrano family at the game against Manchester United last Saturday, including young Enzo wearing his brand new Altrincham away kits, which is fantastic, as has already been mentioned by Bill. Emmanuel asks, imagining that we stay up next season in the National League, would you say that the next step for the club is to consolidate financially in the league and remain as much time as possible, or would you go for something else, trying to expand the fan base maybe?
We're working on a 5-year plan. John's pulling that together on behalf of the board. Our ambition is to get into the Football League, to right the wrongs of 1979-80, to take our rightful place amongst the 92. There's a progression that we need to go through to get to there. And as we've said, it needs progress on and off the field of play in order to achieve that. So therefore, stabilising, yes, stabilising, but moving forward. The key thing that underpins everything there, as with so many things in life, is money. So a lot of the focus in the club at the moment, from commercial, from sponsorship, from investment, is about how we bring in more funds to help make this dream a reality.
Yeah, just to touch on that, Bill, I think you mentioned there about the business plan and what we're working on behind the scenes, and that strategic review of the club has been ongoing for about 3 or 4 months now. We've made significant progress in producing the plan, as it were, and that should come into fruition for the board initially, within the next month or so. And that's looking at every initiative across the club, from both stadium through to playing squad, through to the financials, as mentioned. So that's underway, and that will deliver the plan that the board are looking to implement.
Thanks, John. And Emmanuel is the latest recipient of our Volunteer of the Month award. And what time does he need to be in the club shop tomorrow, John?
He needs to be his first game of the season, so he needs to be here for 12:30, so we can have our debrief ahead of selling hopefully many shirts.
Fantastic, and thanks to Emmanuel for the great work that he does. Next question comes from Peter Ascott. Peter says, how are we progressing with the appointment of Groundsman?
That's a good question. So people will be aware that Neil Brown, who has given exemplary service to this club for 17 years now, is moving on. We've tried our best to keep him, but unfortunately, we've been unable to do that. I want to put on record our thanks for him, all the work that he's done over that period, and for his team of dedicated volunteers who have supported him so ably. You look at the pitch now, with the investment that we've made in that area, plus the loving care that it's had from that team, and you can see the benefits of that. We are now looking for a new head groundsman. That search is underway, and when there's more news on that, we'll let people know.
Thanks, Bill. Next question comes from Russell Neal, and Russell asks, he says, I have a broad question re the fan zone. What message do you think the way Libero has been treated sends to other local businesses who might wish to get involved in the football club? And also, what does the board say to those who donated money into the concept, which now appears to have significantly altered, but without a kind of consultation with the fan base. Is it not a case then of we'll take your money and do what we like with it?
Absolutely not. And thanks for the question, Russ. The situation with the fan zone is this. We launched fundraising to initiate the fan zone project, which we did. We started it. We opened, and we shouldn't have opened, and that's down to me that we went with something that was not quite ready. During the course of the project, the costs spiraled significantly. And as people will know, we ended up with having significant expenditure elsewhere on the ground during the course of last season. Therefore, what we were left with was a project that was, required significant expense to get it to a point where we could open, and we just didn't have money. The money that was raised through fans was, a relatively small percentage of the money that required. The additional money that the club put in, to some extent, those funds were diverted because of the other works that we would need to be doing. We got to a position where the most responsible thing that we could do was get the fan zone open in some form or other, because otherwise it would just be a sort of the dead area of the ground that it has been would continue. It would continue to be just a sort of eyesore, basically, in that far corner of the ground. So what we've gone with is something that gets the fan zone up and running. What we have to do then is generate the revenue for the additional expense that we've incurred, and our process throughout the ground improvements that we've done over the last few years, and there have been a few, have been around generating additional revenue. If you go back to the construction plan, the plan for the ground that we put together, all of the initial works were around generating additional revenue to then fund the next phase of the project. So what we're looking at doing is getting the fan zone open, generating some revenue from there. Then when we've got a facility in the ground that is in use and generating revenue, we can then look at how we optimize that as a feature that addresses all of the demographics that we're trying to do. I would see this as a temporary blip in a longer journey, in a longer strategic journey around doing up the ground as a whole. Things don't always work out as planned. I'm as disappointed as anybody that we have had to change our approach here. But if we hadn't have changed our approach, we just would not have got the fan zone open in any form whatsoever. And once it's open, we can determine what to do with it. In the same way that with the VP Lounge and with the Sponsors Lounge, those offers are evolving as we get more used to having the facilities and more used to knowing what we can do with them. So we're creating facilities within the ground, we're getting them generating money for us, and then we'll optimize them over a period of years to make sure that they're giving the fans what we want. I think it's important to point out we are a club that puts the fan experience at the heart of what we're doing. When for example, we're changing the way that we do match day security, we're not trying to create a match day experience that is a sort of mini Man United. We've got to keep a match day experience that is relevant, appropriate, and welcoming to our fan base across the board. And that is changing. It is one of those problems about moving up through the pyramid. When we're in League Two, it will have to change again. And our match day experience and what we offer has to evolve with that. But having facilities that are there and open is the first major step in being able to do that optimization. So we have taken that decision. It was a very difficult decision that we took. We knew it would upset people. We are not turning our back on the investment that's been made. But our first step is to get a facility in the ground that is open, generating revenue, and then we will look at how we optimize the match day experience in there for everyone, those who've contributed and those who haven't. So that is sort of a long answer to say we're trying to move this forward. Facilities around the ground, it's not easy, but we continue to push forward.
Thank you, Bill. Next question comes from David Frame. David says, Ulti for All stands for something more than just a football game. You need a commitment to the fans, young and old. It's the volunteers that make our club function behind the scenes. It's our ground staff. The words from Altrincham FC board. So David's question is, after 17 years of loyal and dedicated service by Neil Brown, what plans do the club have to acknowledge this, and what are the club planning to do to replace him?
So I've touched on some of this. Looking for a replacement is an activity that's well underway. We really do appreciate what Neil and his team have done for us. This club is built on the back of volunteers, not least the board, by the way. If I look at the work that some of my colleagues put in, it's immense. The board, volunteers not on the board, people such as yourself, Brian, and Mark Bennett, who will be getting this ready for publication later. We have so many great volunteers at the heart of the club. We are very grateful to all of them. And we will continue to be so. We mentioned the Volunteer of the Month award with Emmanuel earlier. There have been some great winners of that, but there's so many candidates for that. We are truly grateful to all of our volunteers and for the work that they do for the club. We couldn't function without them.
The pitch is probably, is almost certainly as good as it's ever been in the history of Altrincham Football Club. So Neil is going out on a real high, isn't he?
He is. And, if we look at the investments that we've made in the ground, including the pitch over the last 2 or 3 years, it's the best part, £500,000. The pitch was 180,000, supported by grants, yes, but that was an investment that we knew we had to make. And we're seeing the benefits of that. If you want the very best playing surface, you need to invest in that. And Neil and the team have really worked hard to make that look like a spectacular surface. You go back to, it's only 4 or 5 years ago, throughout our youth when we were growing up, Brian, when people were saying it's called Moss Lane for a reason, to explain away the poor drainage. Well, it looks like, touch wood, that's a problem of the past. It's a fantastic pitch, and it's been really well curated by Neil and by the team.
Thanks, Bill. The next, it's not really a question, it's a statement and a sort of a thank you message from Christopher Whiteleg, who says, what a fantastic achievement for the team to go full time. Feel that we will do extremely well and is the way forward, as well as it's been a long time coming. And Bill, this is, we get quite a lot of messages like this. I think, the vast majority of fans are very, very excited about what's happening at the football club just at the minute.
Yeah, and that vast majority, the number of fans that we have, is getting bigger and bigger every season. So we averaged over 2,000 last season for the first time since the inaugural season of the Northern Premier League in 1968-9. And we have to keep growing the fan base, and the way that we do that is by playing great football with a great management team and a great squad of young players. I think it's incredible how far we've come on the pitch. Standing back and just looking at it as a fan, I think that we have not been in this good a shape for going back to those early years of the Alliance Premier League, going back to 79, 80, 81. We are building something that is just absolutely fantastic, and long may it continue.
Thank you. The next question comes from Oscar, and Oscar says, or asks, are there any updates regarding the stadium plans, and what's the next step?
There's a number of questions on the stadium and the ground and so on, and the way that it makes most sense to address them is that I talk about the past and Chris talks about the future, given his recent arrival. But we drew up some plans. We've done a lot of work, as I say, and there's work in progress that we're doing, but we are beginning to look more broadly at how we develop those plans into the future, how we make concrete improvements that are more visible, maybe across the entire stadium. Chris, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, I don't know if it's worth really just explain a little bit about me. Would that help as well? That'd
be great.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, hello, Altrincham fan base, I guess, for starters. My name's Chris Hamlet. I've got a business called Armstrong Projects, and my journey actually started about 12 months ago with Altrincham. I've been in the background for some time, and granted, today's the day you're all getting to meet me, but I have been trying to help and support, advise for probably 6 months or so. But just regarding the stadium, really, what we're trying to do is review the overall plan at the moment, where we are, given that we've just gone full time. Generally, what's been going on in the background, what you won't see, the bits you won't see, the bits you will see. During close season, we've spent a bit of time doing all the infrastructure work. That entails changing room upgrades, boardroom upgrades. Lots of you would have seen the VP lounge already. We're creating some really good spaces really for the players and the staff to operate from, and that's really been the foundation for the last 6 months really in terms of the sort of main focus. Obviously, I'm aware of the issues that we had as a club beginning of this year, back end of last year, which we're on top of, and I think they're in the past. We've got one area which we've got to focus on, which is the stand on the popular side. We've got a plan in place. You'll see some changes occurring over the forthcoming weeks. Unfortunately, we've not had a chance to do this before the season begins, but rest assured, everywhere is operation as normal. We've got everywhere open as much as we can. We've got some very good spaces which you will all be able to get use of. Lots of areas have changed, and I think as you all start to come back into the ground, you'll see fences going up, lots of tidying up in certain areas, just to try and get better space and better use. Overall, we're working on the potential of what we can do with the ground. Like I said before, there's upgrades to the pop side, there's upgrades to the fan zone. I can talk about the fan zone a little bit later as well. But when you do enter the ground this week, you'll see that we've segregated that area and it's looking quite tidy. There's still lots to do in there, and you'd have all seen the report that Mr. Chairman put out last week regarding the anticipated opening in September. I think the other things really just to touch on, obviously we're listening to the comments on the forums. We're aware there's concerns over toilet facilities. I am focusing on plans really just to try and upgrade those to give everyone a better experience, to make use of the space that we've got around the ground. Hopefully we'll be able to share some photographs of the areas that we've looked at over the close season really, and let you see what we have done behind the scenes. Reports back from the players and the staff have been really, really good, really positive. It's not going to stop there. We've got lots to think about, lots to do. And we'll keep you updated as things progress. But look forward to obviously reporting more to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Also, thanks to Brian Ford for his question, which is what is the situation on the Groundsman? I think we've already covered that in previous questions, but understandably asked by Brian, who's one of our biggest club volunteers down at the stadium most days of the week, and of course on a match day helps Neil Brown and the rest of the ground staff and does a sterling job. So thank you for your question, Brian. The next question comes from Simon Ellis, who's one of our Radio Robins commentators, and Simon says, so excited about the season ahead, but is the club concerned about inflationary pressures, particularly energy costs? And is there a worry it may impact on the project?
The situation we find ourselves in for this season is we're doing what we've done a couple of times in the past, which was we've set a budget up for this year that has us running at a loss. Now, and then we challenged ourselves to close that gap. Now, we did this most notably the season of the Portsmouth Cup run, where we set out at the beginning of the season to look at making a loss, and we ended up making quite a substantial profit because we back ourselves to close that gap. So having done the same for this season, set a budget that has us running at a loss, except the numbers are a bit bigger now than they were back when we were in the National League North. Off we go to try and close this gap, and then you get these inflationary pressures. That creates a bigger gap than the gap that we had. So therefore, the focus on generating additional revenues becomes all the more important. People might think that because we've gone full time, we're awash with money. In fact, the opposite is the case. We've pushed every lever to the maximum to try and get to the starting line of full-time football. And now what we've got is a huge challenge to make that pay. And we have plans, sponsorship, commercial. We're looking at an investment scheme that will be launching soon that will bring capital into the club, and so on. But we will need all of your help to help us generate additional revenue, bring a friend, have an extra pint, do whatever you can to help us to bridge that gap. But we're confident that we will do, but we have set ourselves that challenge. So anything like inflation that makes that challenge more difficult is unwelcome. But, you get faced with problems, you just have to overcome them.
Yeah, good point, Bill. And I suppose to further answer that question, as part of the strategic review we're doing, it's how we become a really sustainable football club that is able to grow and also invest more in both capital projects within and around the stadium, and also the playing side, because we have to remain competitive on the pitch, because that's what fuels everything else really in football. So that's underway, as we said, and that sustainability is the real key item. So as Bill says, yes, we budget for a loss. But we're also looking, it's not just it's not short-term planning, it's part of a much bigger picture. So just so people can rest assured that this isn't just let's throw money at something and hope it works. This is part of a real plan that is very much medium to long term, rather than anything too short term.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks, John. And John, stay right there, because this next one's coming right at you. This is from Eddie Bishop, the only person who's asked a question who shares the name of a former Altrincham footballer. Eddie, successful player with Ultfc in the 1980s. And Eddie asks, are there any plans for the sale of Ultfc merchandise other than online?
Yes. So I think on a match day, we always have a club shop of some description open within the sports hall and the bar, and that will continue this season. In terms of non-match day, it's a little bit more difficult because I think we mentioned earlier, everybody on the board is a volunteer. We have quite a small infrastructure in place behind the scenes, so having something operational on a non-match day is currently prohibitive, just in terms of human resource. We have spoke around pop-up stores within the centre of Altrincham, whether it be short-term lease of a unit for Christmas, also to get some branding out there. And I think there's another question later on that talks about how we get more exposure within the town mainly for fixtures. So it's kind of watch this space still, and I think I answered this question maybe 6 to 12 months ago in one of these sessions. But we'll never rule it out having something operational on a non-match day. But right now, it wouldn't make financial sense to us to do it. Everything's available online. We try and get product out and delivered as soon as possible. Again, not always easy, given the resource we have. But every single match day, there will be a presence. And if you'd have been anybody who visited last week versus Manchester United in the friendly, they'll have seen that most of the sales are geared towards shirt sales, kit sales this time of year. But there's also the leisure wear range. There's also non-clothing product that you'll see. And that range will continue to grow as retail becomes more successful for the club. So watch this space, essentially.
Right, we're on a roll. Next question comes from Gary Rowe. Gary asks, what is the best thing that the fans can do to help motivate the team squad this year?
I'll have a go at that, shall I? Thank you, Gary. Just to start off with, I've been privileged enough to go over on numerous occasions to Egerton and seen the lads training and functioning together as a group. And they are extremely motivated and very well led by, Phil Solves and their management team, and obviously overseen by Rob as a director. So in terms of your question, you're absolutely right. And how can we continue to keep that forward momentum going of the motivation? So we are starting from a great baseline before we go into tomorrow. I suppose in terms of the obvious is come and support. We are Ultfc for all. I say on numerous, things I've spoken, on things like this and to people that I meet at the ground regularly, talk about us, go out there, go into Altrincham, follow us on socials, be supportive, talk about initiatives that we feel passionate about, Ultfc for all. The way we were all engaged with the Euros, and the lads did some stuff for me. Talking about, the women's football, support the community arm that goes out there. So really, there's a whole host. I could probably talk about it, for the whole thing and dominate it, but really get behind us, support us. Obviously, come in the kit, that's great. Let them see we bought the shirts. All that does get very much fed back to the teams. All the board engage with them, at different levels and on numerous different subjects. They work extremely hard for me on the commercial side. They do things, odd little films. They go to places. We're going to work with them and take them out to the community. So I suppose really, what we could do is to motivate them is work extremely solidly as a group of fans, board, etc. Work hard on their behalf. Great to see you. Give us ideas. The pie in the pint, that was a great one. I think really for me, it's just engagement and know that we are following them and it's really positive vibes. Let's stop some of the, toxic stuff. Let's start the new season and really go for it and get behind the team and the lads. Travel away if we can. Obviously, that goes, without saying. Turn up at the games and just support. Carry on doing what you're doing. We've got some amazing people out there that turn up at J. Davison Stadium on a Saturday afternoon and a cold, wet Tuesday night. So just continue what we're all doing, really. And crack on. But thank you for the question, Gary. Look forward to seeing you at the games.
Thanks, Sam, for that detailed answer to Gary's question. Next question comes from Stuart Brown. Stuart says, with the current poor showing from the matchday stewards causing much distaste due to their complete amateurish conduct, would it be possible, if at all, to get the perimeter fence strengthened so that the useless clowns can continue to sit and do nothing and can stop harassing genuine football fans from enjoying the matchday experience?
So, the perimeter fence issue is one where we have been for some time looking at how we allow fans to return to the perimeter fence in certain parts of the ground, those parts of the ground being the pop side and in front of the community sports hall. We have a way which will allow fans to stand back against their one deep at the barrier effectively. It's not quite in place yet, but it will be. In terms of, I know there's been comments about fans at the away end taking up places against the barriers. We brought in a new stewarding company this season. Pre-season friendlies are there to get the knots out of the systems and processes. You learn more from a pre-season friendly, not only on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. We know we need to take a slightly different approach to the away end, which will be starting on Saturday, which should stop the away fans from taking up their position by the perimeter fence because they are not allowed to. So we learn, we correct, we move forward.
Thank you, Bill. Next question is from Andrew Horner. Andrew says, why do we enforce segregation for those matches when opposition attendance is low? It used to be so much easier for those of us who sit in the family stand to use the snack bar and toilets in the away end, rather than having to pick our way through the main stand to the opposite end of the ground. This is understandable when there are hundreds of visiting fans, but very frustrating when there are just a few dozen. Used to be nice also to be able to exchange pleasantries with visitors which is what non-league should be.
So I'll take the segregation issue, then I'll propose Chris take the plans for the facilities issue, if that's all right. Segregation, there was only one game last season, if you ignore Nantwich in the Cheshire Senior Cup, there's only one game last season where we didn't have segregation, and that was for Wealdstone, and there were very clear reasons for that based upon the way that they'd treated us on that early season day back in September, where unfortunately Conor Kirby suffered that terrible injury. So that was a thank you to them. Now, on a couple of occasions, what we've done is we've started with segregation and then released it at half time, based upon the number of fans that have attended. But to just give an example of some of the challenges that we face, how many Maidstone fans are going to turn up tomorrow? Their ground safety officer is telling us 500. We look at ticket sales and we think maybe 100. My view is opening day of the season, we might get 250 in the away end. But if you've got a level of uncertainty that looks like it could be 100, it could be 500, it's very difficult to say we're not going to segregate the match. So our likely approach is going to be to segregate, and then if conditions allow, to desegregate at half time or at some particular point during the game. But, you know, exchanging pleasantries with, for example, Wrexham fans or Oldham Athletic fans might be a slightly different situation than exchanging pleasantries with Colville or, you know, Rushall Olympic fans. We have moved on and we are living in a different world, unfortunately. Chris, do you want to make a comment on the facilities part of that question?
Yeah, as I touched on before, I mean, we're aware that there's a toilet issue with some of the fans at the sponsors' room side of the Moss Lane side. There is plans in place to try and combat that, which means we've got to do a bit of shifting around in terms of some of the storage facilities we've got. We've got plans in place. I'm trying to implement them as quickly as possible, really, just to make that experience overall easier, and basically keep the segregation a little bit more manageable. We're also looking at focusing on getting some seats in the away end as well, which will help and keep fans from the sponsors' side over into the away end as well for those who need a seat. So hopefully that will combat some of these problems that we may have with the segregation, but at the same time make the overall experience a little bit easier, a bit more manageable for us all around.
And just to build on that for a second, seats in the away end is probably the biggest Football League entry criterion that we don't meet at the moment. So it will serve a couple of purposes, putting some seats in that away end.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Bill. The next question comes from Jake Worrell, and Jake asks, will there be a consistent and affordable away travel service for this next season? And I'll answer this because I'm involved with the away travel service for supporters and running the coaches. First of all, very, very sadly, we lost our away travel coordinator, John Rook, who passed away very suddenly during the summer. John did a fantastic job as the away travel coordinator throughout last season under very challenging circumstances, because, as we know, as we came out of the pandemic, fuel prices were up dramatically, and that meant that coach prices went up dramatically. And it was very, very difficult last season to make ends meet. And that's all we try to do with away travel. We don't see away travel as a profitable, or we don't have profit as an objective for away travel, and never have done, going back to when it was run by Mark Ecclesall for so many years. Mark would balance the books every year one way or the other, so that there wasn't a penny loss or a penny profit. If that meant that we were able to subsidise the last couple of trips of the season, then that's what we did if we had some money in the coffers. But last season was exceptionally exceptionally challenging, and we lost money. We were able to subsidise that because we had some money in a pot from the task away travel fund from previous years, and we also had some very generous donations from the board of directors and also from some individual benefactors, which we were exceptionally grateful for. But even with that support, financial support, we lost money. We can't do that this year. We need to break even. We don't need to make profit. We need to break even. The costs for coaches are huge and are increasing almost by the month. By the time this goes out, there will be an announcement on the website to say that we plan to run a coach to Bromley, which is our first away game on the 13th of August, a week on Saturday. However, to do it, we need a minimum of 40 people to travel. Not to put too fine a point on it, the quotes we've had, the best quote we've had for a coach is £1,750. And to cover that costs, we need 40 people in. It'll be £48 for adults and £39 for concessions, which is under 65s, under 18s, and students and NHS workers. So that's going to be quite a big ask. So will there be a consistent and affordable away travel service for this next season? We hope so, but we can't guarantee it. It will depend upon demand, and it will depend upon whether people can afford the travel costs, which will be higher than previous seasons, unfortunately. However, getting to an away game on the supporters coach will be the cheapest way of getting there by public transport. So despite the fact it will be higher than we'd perhaps like to charge and has been in previous seasons, it will be the cheapest way of getting there. And also it's a comfortable way and convenient way of getting there for Altrincham supporters. So Jake, and you're one of the many fans who've supported us really well last season, and also one of the young fans who've had terrific support from the teenagers in the Ultfc fan base, of which we're pleased to say there are many more these days than in previous years. Thank you for your support, and we will do what we can this season, but it is very, very difficult. Let's move on to the next question, which is from Gavin. Gavin says, asks, how many directors are there at the club at the minute? It's a great question. There was a lady director other than Sam McKenzie on social videos for the women's game at the end of the season. That's the Maidstone game. And there is the American who is involved and who was seen at the end of the season. Who is official? Who isn't? Great question, Gavin.
So the first thing I'd like to do in answering this question is remember a director who unfortunately is no longer with us. And I'm talking, of course, about our dear friend, Derek Wilshaw, who passed away. Derek in particular has been a stalwart of this club for so many years. Graham Rowley wrote a very moving piece about Derek and the contribution that he's made over the years. And it's it's touched all of us quite deeply that he's passed away, because of course he was old, and it always comes as a surprise, and it did come quite suddenly, and Derek is no longer with us. So thank you, Derek, for everything you've done, and we will miss you. In terms of the board, I have often maintained that I think we've got the best board in non-league football. And if you look at the progress that we've made over the last few years, there's strong evidence of that. You hear of the stories that John's told about the growth of retail that Sam has achieved in terms of sponsorship, that Chris now coming in, putting new impetus behind work on the stadium. Rob and Cahill on the playing side with not only the first team squad, but the academy and through the scouting network and so on. This club has come a huge, long way. And a lot of that is down to this board. We've got Scott Burton in Canada driving investment. We've got, so how many people are on the board? We have a board that is pretty much the same size actually as the board that we had in place when we won the Alliance Premier League in 1979-80, the most successful period in the club's history. There were 12 directors on the board, a chairman, a vice chairman, and 12 directors on the board then. We are a similar kind of number. Now, why am I not saying there are X? It's because we have strengthened the board recently. Chris is one of a number of people who we brought in. We have had this process of where we work together with people to see if their working style and our working style is consistent. So we will bring people in on a, not so much a trial basis, but it's a sort of get to know each other basis. And what people very quickly realize is just how tough being a director of this football club is. And not everyone can make those time commitments and effort commitments. So we've changed the way that we've done it, basically to have a trial period where people do get to know how we work and what we're doing. We have 3 new directors, of which Chris is one. We'll be making some announcements on those when we can. You know, we're limited by, we need FA approval and all of that kind of thing, and some of those things can take some time. But there have been a couple of people who we've tried who have not been able to make that longer term commitment to us, but who still in the period of time that they were with the club have helped us move the club forward. So we will continue to evolve. We will continue to look to strengthen. There's so much to do around this football club in terms of not least bringing our off-field capabilities up to the same level as our on-field capabilities. And we will continue to look to strengthen where we can, and we'll make announcements on new board members when we can as well. But there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. There's significant progress that has been made, and there's some people who've come in for a shorter period, made a difference, but then not been able necessarily to make the commitments on time and effort that we feel the job needs.
Thanks, Bill. Matt Parker asks the next question. Matt was interviewed on Radio Robins after the game against Trafford recently, along with his dad, David. And there's a question from David coming up shortly. But Matt asks, please can you confirm whether all the ground renovations have been completed to Trafford Borough Council standards, and whether we are able to stand against the barriers this season, or are we going to have them knocking on the door again?
So I'll start. I'll do the history, and Chris will do the future, as it were. So the work that we did on the instigation of Trafford Council last year was work that was very necessary that we did. You know, it was work that perhaps was long overdue. We weren't helped by the fact that we had a ground with no people in it for, 1.5 seasons. That meant that some of the maintenance work that would normally have been done didn't get done. But for historical reasons that everybody knows about where this club came from financially, but at the beginning of this millennium, we've not had the money to spend. So we had a little bit of a catch up in terms of reactive maintenance that we were doing over the course of the last season, and you saw the impact of that, and it was horrible, and we hope it never happens again. One of the reasons for bringing Chris in was to move to a much more proactive way of doing things. So we would go out and hunt for problems effectively and address them before they materialized. And there's been some examples of that. But, we did the work we did last season. Some bits of that are ongoing. I'll give one example, the Golf Road external wall. That's dependent on grant funding. We are very close to securing that, and once we have it, that wall will be replaced. Other than that, a lot of the work has been done, as you've seen. But in terms of how we're going to change the way we approach things going forward, Chris, I hand the baton to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bill. So, Matt, yeah, just a couple of things really, just to reiterate what Bill has just told us. So the goal for a wall, we are close to getting that funding in, and as soon as that is authorised, we will be actioning that repair. I know it's a big bugbear for a lot of you, a lot of the fans out there. The other area really which we're left to complete and conclude is the popular popular inside terrace, which is at the away end. So as I mentioned before, when you all return this next week or this coming weekend, you will see that there is some segregation of that area, which we've got to limit fans from standing in. We do have a plan. Our engineer has pulled the detail together, and that will be happening quite quickly, which is a relatively straightforward repair, albeit we've got to go through the relevant authorities to get it approved. As soon as it is, we'll be carrying out repairs, and we will get that section open again. I know it's quite a popular area for the fans to accumulate. Really, on top of that, yeah, it's real simple things. A maintenance plan. Really, that was one of my main focal points, and trying to implement something that was more responsive, less responsive, and more reactive. No, wrong way around. Planning it really. We don't want to be reactive. We absolutely do not want to be reactive. We want to see problems coming at us and deal with them before they become an incident. And that's something that me and my team really will ensure that it's actioned. Well, it's in place already. So yeah, that will help us to combat issues that we may not face if we don't have a plan in place. As I said before, there's lots of things been going on across the closed season. One of those things that we've been looking at is the barrier around the pitch. I'm trying to find some areas where we can have fans safely stand. It's not going to be ready for the first game, but it is in motion at the moment, and we will be putting up some segregation there to allow us to stand one person deep. Just need to bear with me on that whilst we get all that approved, but that will be happening very quickly.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Bill, for your answers there. Freddie Stott asks the next question. Freddie says, congratulations on taking the club full-time at long last. With new expenditure has come new investment, and our new model is evidently encouraging this. However, are you able to confirm that our new American investor is still currently involved? And if not, do we now have a void to fill?
I'll take this one, shall I, commercially? Hi, Freddie. Is this the model, Freddie, who did some...
It is.
Hi, Freddie. Thank you for your modelling. It was really good to see you do that. So thank you for your support on the kit launch. And a good question. Just, I think we've sort of answered the American question, but happy to make my two penneth. Participated in that. We weren't naive enough to think that we were putting all our eggs in one basket. So to reassure you, the American investment... we're not resting everything on that at all. So I do where came from. We certainly weren't. We make a lot of considered decisions. In terms of the model, John touched on the 5-year business plan that we're all working hard on at the moment, and that's going to sort of start getting put into place. And it's very important to us that we all are looking towards the same goals in terms of like revenue streams and the commercial sort of side of the business. Gates is one thing, so we need to be able to increase that one. But the other thing where I come into play a little bit more from a commercial point of view and taking the model forward and maybe a different model is very much looking at it. Not everything is match centric from a commercial point of view. It's hugely important to us, and we all know that. But simultaneously going on around the ground are a lot of initiatives, business club being one. We're also looking at all the spaces that we can get a commercial revenue from and maximise what we're doing. VP Lounge, Sponsors Lounge, usage during the day. We're working hard again to make everything sustainable, so the money's coming in and the income streams are happening. We've got some great new spaces. I think I again touched on Adele earlier on. She's working hard. In terms of the kit, there's another example of I've locked them in for 2 years now, which is sort of unprecedented. Davidson's 2 new ones, which is brilliant. Car Finance 247 on the shirt back and shorts, and McHale & Co on the sleeve. So that's 2 new ones, and one we've been working with for quite a few years. Touching again on the Libero comment and how we is this indicative of how we treat people or whatever? Very interesting. Mornflake, Manchester Glass, PES that were previously on the kit are still very much working with us, still very much part of the Ultra family. We all take tremendous amount of pride of the people that we keep with us and move forward. So I suppose in answer to your question, it's constantly reaching out for new people. We're doing that. We have goals to meet. I'm very much held accountable as a board member by both the chairs, as is John from a commercial point of view. All the time looking for new people. We're in the Chamber of Commerce. We're working very closely with the bid in Altrincham. Again, as John was saying, Vakini, who are doing our alcohol online sales, very local. So there's lots of sort of ways that we're doing it. And it certainly hadn't been banking on some American investor if to allay everybody's fear. But we are working extremely hard commercially. In terms of gates, as I said, I'm looking at on both boards. I have a foot on the community board. The outreach we're getting from them has been unprecedented last season. That's something else we continue to want to grow, to bring, get bums on seats on a Saturday afternoon. And again, focus on the Ulti for all, get everybody here. We're an all-inclusive sort of, club, take it very seriously and want everybody to be involved, and come and join us. If that sort of touched on your question there, Freddie.
I'm sure it has, and Freddie modelled the You Awake It superbly in that fantastic kit launch, overseen by Mr. Coyne himself. Thank you. Right, we had a question from Matt Parker just a few minutes ago. Matt's dad David now has a question. David asks, with the move to full-time this season, have you encountered problems attracting the right players for Phil? And if we are relegated, do we return to part-time?
So we plan to do a Q&A next with Rob, Phil and Cahill on the playing side, all aspects of the playing side, first team, squad, academy and so on. So there will be, I trust, many, many other questions like this, but our view is full-time has a minimum duration, let's say, of 3 seasons. So if we get relegated, then we will stay full-time within that model through the planning period, as per the planning assumptions that we've made. Attracting players, I think actually we've seen already with some of the loan signings that we've made that we are now able to attract a different, a broader audience of excuse me, players at clubs who are happy to loan their players to an organisation that is full-time. I think we're also seeing the benefits of these guys being together 5 days a week in the pre-season friendlies. We've seen, people have been brought in on loan. Now, typically last season, for example, they would have only had maybe 1 session with the team before they got on the pitch. Now we're seeing they've had a week with them, training every day. They know who they are, what they do, what their strengths are, what our play patterns are, and so on. So I think actually having gone full time, we're going to see huge advantages from that. I think we're already seeing some of them, and I'm really excited to see what a full season of full-time football looks like at Altrincham SC.
Thanks, Bill. Paul Burton asks the next question. Paul is one of our volunteers who helps out on a match day with the BT Sport production highlights that we provide for the BT highlights package for the National League. And Paul asks, will we ever be able to lean on the pitch side barriers to watch the games again? Or is this an unfortunate and disappointing consequence of increased health and safety regulations being imposed on the club?
Yeah, I think I could probably just reiterate again. So, Paul, yeah, just really regards to that, we appreciate that this is really important to the fans. So, as I mentioned a bit earlier, we do have plans in place to create a safe standing zone. That will happen quite soon. I can't give you a time frame, but it is something that is up on the top of our priorities list. So just keep your eye out, because that will happen over the next certainly over the next few weeks.
Thanks, Chris. Next question from another volunteer, Ian Wilkinson, our PA announcer, and Ian asks or states, following the proposed 10-year stadium plans presentation in January 2020, please can you provide an update on where we are currently at? I appreciate that nobody knew that we were going to experience COVID and the impact it would have. Are Define architects still involved with the project? Have all issues now been resolved with Trafford Borough Council?
So, as we've touched on a number of these already, so not to dwell on it, but perhaps to just reiterate that there has been significant investment in the ground over the last few years, ground and pitch. That has not always been in the areas that we hope for, but again, our overall strategy are to focus on revenue areas, and secondly, to make sure that the ground was safe. That is effectively where the money has gone, in addition to the pitch. And moving forward, we will be coming up with plans. And Chris, I'll let you. Whilst Brian seems to be, I'm not quite sure what he's doing, but
malfunction, I think.
Yeah.
And just Ian, it's really just touched on what I've said, but there are plans in place. We obviously want to realise the potential of what we've currently got with the stadium there at Moss Lane. So I've got plenty of ideas, which we're obviously just trying to work out what will be feasible, put them into some kind of sequence, understand what we need financially in terms of investment, and really move on those things that are as a priority to us. So I'm pretty confident to say over the next 2 to 3 years there'll be a plan in place to see some significant changes over at the ground. Obviously, being involved now, it's important for me to have a team that is my team. So I will be bringing in my own designers and my own consultants. So unfortunately, at the moment, there's not really an opportunity with Define to be involved. But rest assured, the people who come in will have experience of working with football clubs and are well aware of what the club means to us. So that they are people who I've got lots of experience with and lots of confidence in as well.
Thank you. Right, next question comes from Ray Sant. Many Ulti fans will know Ray, who's a Shropshire-based Ulti fan, and we have to send our good wishes to Ray, because he's got a big event coming up in September. Friday the 9th of September, he gets married to Jan, who's also a big Ulti fan. So congratulations to you both, and hope you have a great day on the 9th of September. And Ray asks, states, very happy to see the club go to a full-time model. Can you give an assurance that should the dreaded health and safety come calling again, the club has the wherewithal to be able to rectify any problems that may arise, and have all previous recommendations been met? At a very crucial and exciting time in the club's history, having a ground with areas out of bounds will not look good. Plus, the finances of the club will suffer greatly.
I'm happy to respond to that, if that's okay. So just really again, I'm just going to talk about what we've got and what we've got in place, and just reiterate the maintenance plan that we're looking at. So we're well aware of the concerns that the council had 6-7 months ago. Everything we needed to do, we've done, with the exception of the area to the popular side, which as I've stated there before, will be rectified in the very near future. Overall, like I said, we want to make sure we're planning the overall maintenance of the ground, and we've been doing lots of things in the background over the close season. So that will continue. That's not going to stop when the season starts. Obviously, there's lots more to do, as you'll all recognise. But I hope once the fans return this weekend, you'll see lots of changes. There'll be subtle changes that you've seen around the ground, just to make better use of the space and to tidy things up that we need to. The fan zone being a big area, which is our next focal point. But just keep an eye out on the golf road side. Sorry, the popular side, which will be improved over the coming weeks, and then the wall to the back of the golf road as well. So lots going on in the background. Really just trying to focus on making sure that we are at a standard that we need to be at. and that's where I've come in with my team as well. So yeah, I'm more than confident that we will be in a better position and avoiding the consequences that we suffered earlier on in this year.
Thanks, Chris. And this next question is also related to the fan zone. It comes from David Fairhurst, London-based, long-standing Altrincham fan. David states, whilst I appreciate the fallout from the council ground problems, the new fan zone doesn't resemble what was originally promised and what many of us invested money in. Craft beer is a huge industry now. So does the board not recognise the incremental sales that such an offering will bring from existing supporters coming to the ground earlier, as well as new fans who would enjoy the overall beer and football offering? And who would be used to paying top dollar for it? For reference, think Dulwich or Dorking, amongst others. And no, Hobgoblin nor anything else from Marston's would not fall into that category. At least, could there not be a room in the zone for a choice? I apologise for the negative question and what is otherwise the most exciting period in my 50 years as a fan.
And thanks, Dave, for the question. And you know, we've sort of addressed this already, but to reiterate, because it's important, I think, that people understand, the most important thing for us at the moment is to get the fan zone up and running. And once we've done that, we can look at how the offers in all of the areas of the ground evolve. There is certainly a place for craft beer within the ground, and I'm sure that I could self-fund it off the back of my own personal consumption if necessary. But it is, you know, we do know what we need to do in terms of addressing different demographics, addressing revenue streams that we get by getting people to the ground earlier, and so on and so forth. But our biggest challenge right now, and we're going to achieve it, and it wouldn't have happened unless we'd taken this approach, is to get the fan zone open in the first place.
Thank you, Bill. Next question comes from Martin Gillett. Martin was one of a couple of audio interviews that we did with fans during the close season, which was posted on the website and social media. And Martin states, fantastic to see the progress made on the pitch under Phil and Neil in the last few seasons. But in my view, the biggest obstacle to the long-term aim of league football is the stadium. Many of us attended the meeting 3 years ago where impressive redevelopment plans were presented. Clearly, the issues with Trafford last season have diverted significant funds into short-term repairs, and the pandemic could not have been foreseen. But where are we now with the plans and funding for the redevelopment?
I just want to say one thing about Trafford, just to make it clear, that what Trafford Borough Council did was identify work that needed to be done. They did us a favour by doing that. We've done that work now, and as I've said, that's sort of catch-up work. So I think what we have to do is we have to say there was stuff we did last season that we weren't planning to, but maybe we should have been planning to, if you know what I mean. So what's past is past. We had some issues, we fixed them. They needed to be fixed. The future, and as I've said previously, we have spent a significant amount on the ground over the last couple of years as a consequence of some of the refurbishments we've done of the sponsors lounge, the VP lounge, the pitch, the remedial work that we've done on the ground. A lot of money has been spent, and we will continue to do that. And once again, I pass the baton across to Chris to finish the sentence, as it were.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the focal point really certainly over the past 6 months has been to conclude the infrastructure. So as I mentioned earlier, you look at the changing rooms, the boardroom, the VP, the sponsors. All those areas are quite important to the club in terms of not only investment, but it's for the players and to ensure the players get the best experience, because we need them to do what they do best. Pulling a maintenance plan together, focusing on the ground and looking for problems rather than letting them find us is obviously really important to ensure that we have a successful model. And that will continue. That's not going to stop, as I keep saying. Look, it's a positive future for us all around in terms of the ground. the council are the council, and as Bill rightly said, yeah, they opened our eyes to see things that we didn't see before. That obviously going to change because we've got the processes and the procedures now implemented to ensure that everything's run smooth and it's very much more liquid.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next question comes from Nick Seller, another long-standing fan. Nick's based in Nottinghamshire, so it's good to see the questions coming from far and wide, not just from local fans. Nick says, given the impending hikes in energy costs, which for businesses are not protected by a cap, should the National League seek to have earlier kick-off times on Saturdays in the winter, November to February, to reduce the use of floodlights? And can future ground developments, including solar roofs feeding batteries on, include solar roofs feeding batteries on any new stands? This would play out well in the community, and clubs should press the government to support such moves as part of the net zero strategy with grants and other incentives.
This takes us back in time. I remember the Blackburn Rovers replay in 1973 kicking off at 1 o'clock on a Wednesday to avoid the need for floodlights. And I note that the Isthmian League has already put in place steps to allow earlier kickoffs for energy saving. I think it would be interesting. I don't know what people would feel about 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock kickoffs as we get into November and December. I sort of feel it needs to be a sort of fact of life that these extra costs are with us. Any mitigation would be good, but I don't think we need to change the way that we do everything. I'm just thinking about what time I'd have to get up if I had to get up here for a 12 o'clock kickoff in December. It'd be quite an early start, that one for sure. But it's an interesting approach, and I'm sure that we're going to have to adapt in some ways.
I think, yeah, Bill, a very good point you make there. One thing I think of when you think of early kickoffs, it's just the balance between, how many fans we will have travelling. If you take a Grimsby last year, 3 o'clock kickoff, I imagine they would bring 1,100 to Moss Lane, whereas if you're doing that at a 12 o'clock, it may put off a percentage of them. So it's weighing up the additional costs of the utility versus what you might not get in gate receipts. So I think at a local level, it's very doable, isn't it? Where the gate might not be affected, but at a national level, it's a bit harder. As you say, how many of our fans, if Brian's trying to fill a bus to Bromley, if that's a midday kickoff, how many fans are going to likely travel versus how many would travel at a 3 o'clock kickoff?
Good example as well, because the only time we've been to Bromley previously was a match covered on BT Sport, and that was a 12:30 kickoff, and that affected our plans. So thanks, John, and thanks, Bill. Aaron Howarth asks the next question. Aaron says, in terms of stadium development, what are our plans next? We've seen the updates to the sponsors lounge and fan zone being built, but what is our plan moving forward once these have been completed?
Yeah, I'll jump in again, actually. Yeah, so it's really, again, we're looking at a plan at the moment overall just to see where the potential is around the ground. As I've talked about at the end of the sponsors there, we need to think about where we can get a toilet facility in. That's kind of high on my priority list at the moment. We've got some other areas at the back of the popular side, which we think we can utilise really to try and open up some storage facilities, which will free up space within the ground. To allow us more additional snack areas and the like. Again, picks up some of the queries that were raised a bit earlier. Long term, I think the opportunity really to try and redevelop and look at development of the stadium as a whole would occur on the popular side. And granted, at the moment, we're spending a bit of time and effort with the fan zone. I don't think that's going to really impact anything or impede us, certainly, on what we can do. But the popular side there, the terrace really could do with some focus, which is we're going to kind of look and put some attention on over the following months, just to see whether or not it's a viable option for us to upgrade that area. We've talked about seating in the away end. Ultimately, we've got regulations that we need to meet when we do finally go up into the Football League. But there are plans there. Rest assured, we are looking at as an overall 2, 3, and 5 year plan. And it is currently work in progress, but there are plans there really to move things forward rather than stand still.
Thank you, Chris. We're on the home run now. I think next question comes from Dennis Bates. Dennis asks, why do we not advertise upcoming matches for home and away in Altrincham Town Centre as Trafford FC do? Also, we should have advertising outside the ground to promote more supporters in special A4 holders, which will look more professional.
Yeah, I can pick that one up, Brian. Thanks, Dennis, for the question. It's an interesting one from a branding perspective. We've gone through some change over the last couple of years. I think we've driven more exposure to the Altrincham Football Club brand within the community than ever before, and obviously driven with great support from Simon Down and those in the community as well, and the outreach that they do. If you take this summer as an example, we produced these A4 flyers that talked a lot about the initiatives that we've got going on, talked about pre-season, talked about season tickets, talked about our plans, the academy, the pathway, the community, and the work that we do. And that was delivered across thousands of houses, across Wythenshawe, Timperley, Sale, Hale, Altrincham, Bowden, and further afield. And that's because we're trying to, we can't get to everyone, but, given the resources, but we're really trying to sort of improve our outreach, improve our brand, drop this on people's doormats so they know what's happening. And I think we'll do that throughout the season. It's a relatively inexpensive way of marketing the club. We can focus on specific fixtures. We can focus on specific events that we've got coming up. We're always busy. We're always thinking about how we get more people through the door. Bill said earlier, highest average attendance since 1968 last season, which is testament to the work that's going on, but also the outreach and the community backing us. And that's so important as we look to and as we write this next stage of our history and the business plan. We've got to keep going. We've got to keep doing things to increase crowds. It's just inevitable. We can't rest on last year thinking that was great. We've got to make sure that we've done everything we can to make sure tomorrow's gate is going to be successful. But we won't know till probably 3:15. So we'll just keep working. We'll keep plugging away. We'll keep working. I'm looking at options within Altrincham Town Centre. I always notice Manchester Storm are advertising. We do a lot of social advertising. So I know Bill, for instance, was heavily involved with Andrew Flynn recently in last season to look at Facebook outreach, people, so targeting the demographic, and we think that led to increase in ticket sales. And this year, with Andrew's support, we can actually find out whether scientifically that's the case. So things like that are happening. So we are driving outreach more so digitally than physically, but that's not out the question either. And as I say, I keep seeing Manchester Storm and their adverts in around the town centre, and I'm looking to do something similar. But again, it'll depend on cost, and we'll keep doing it so that it's sensible and that it's sustainable.
I mean, I was just going to say, just adding on to John there as well, there's a whole thing about the branding being consistent and the way we talk to people, outside the ground in town. Just sort of from my point of view of that one and the outreach, also building a stronger relationship with the juniors that play with our badge, outreaching to them. So some of it, you're absolutely right, some of it is taking place, Dennis, but you can't see that. And I agree in terms of a physical presence. I work hard with partners. There's A Plan, Blanche Flower, working with the market. The market gave free tickets away for us a couple of games last year. So it's definitely something we're working on to grow that. I think I said before, I'm more involved now with the bid, with the Chamber of Commerce. So I attend their meetings, they attend our meetings. So it's taking place. It's probably, you can't visibly see it taking place, but there will get a point and everybody in Altrincham is going to have a flag in the window or an advert in the window. We really do understand that we need to bring the town closer and actually have a visible presence, which will obviously, benefit tremendously. So good question, and we're working on it is probably the answer.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, John. Rob Manson asks, when will the fan zone be operational?
Okay, that's probably on to me again. So hi, Rob. I think I knew this question was coming. Fully appreciate how sensitive the fan zone is and has been for the last probably 12 months or so. But rest assured, works are underway. And again, as everyone returns to the ground this week, you'll see that the fence line's gone up there to give us some segregation. The reason we've done that first is just to ensure that we can carry out the works within the area in a safe and safe manner. So you'll see the fence has gone up, as I've said. There was some money spent last year on roof panels that didn't quite work for us, but we've not wasted that money. We've reinvented those roof panels, and you'll see that they are now forming boundaries. They look quite good in their format. I guess generally the fan zone for me is probably going to be in two phases, and by that I don't want to really raise any alarm, but what we're going to do is get you open, get the fan zone open, and we're not going to make the same mistakes we did last time. Now, just to kind of give you a little bit more flavour around that, the space that you would be familiar with as the fan zone is not changing in phase one. So that space will be opened up. We will get the pods and the offerings open with some great space for us to be able to get in there and sit comfortably and well. I plan on that being quite a cool space for us all to be able to get into. Phase two, which kind of couples up with any sort of future plans we've got for the popular side, which ultimately will expand the boundary line to the back of the ground, should that go ahead, would allow us to increase the size of the fan zone marginally as well, just to square that area off. Now that's squaring off, that enlargement there comes in phase two. My business, we're used to working in live zones. So again, please don't be alarmed that we're giving you something that is part complete. This, for phase one in September, will be complete. We just want to keep improving it, and we want to keep working on it to make it better. And that's the overall plan. The investment is there now. The fan zone is moving, and it will be a great space, which I think we as board members, as a football club, look forward to getting into and getting open. Certainly, so that we recognise how sensitive and important it is to the fan base. So, Jeb, just to answer the question, September is phase one complete. So that at that point we will have a very safe space, covered space, lit space, operational with the two cabins, the two pods that you've probably all seen. They will be operational, and they will be serving an offering of some kind. End of September.
Thank you, Chris. Nigel Scott is next up. Nigel says, along with many other Ulti fans, I have always watched the game at the perimeter fence. We're no longer allowed to do so. If a complete refurbishment of the fence is not financially viable at the moment, could we perhaps have one section of the ground with a perimeter fence of the required standard, please?
So again, just to add on to the previous comments, we're looking at two areas to start with. So one on the popular side and one on the Moss Lane side. That they will be our first phase of creating space, safe space to stand. And as I said before, that's quite imminent.
Thank you, Chris. Next question is from Graham. Graham says, with the season about to start this Saturday, please can you tell me if the club are going to be running away game coach travel for the 2022-23 season, including those coming up soon, such as Bromley on the 13th of August. I wondered if I've missed news about this by not looking in the right place on the website. I really hope that you're going to run away coaches to away fixtures, with the team needing maximum backing each week and plenty of supporters who cannot drive, wanting to be able to get to go to those away games, along with trains either on strike or cancelled due to the COVID excuse. The away coaches are our only means of getting to said matches. We haven't missed anything on the website, Graham. As was announced from the previous question on this from Jake Worrell, we are planning and hoping to do an away travel service, but it really depends on the economics, and it's totally dependent on us being able to cover the costs. And there are a number of challenges in there, which I went into previously. So yeah, we're hoping to do it, but we'll only do it if there is sufficient demand and if we can cover the costs. Next question is, and I think this is the final question as well, is from Barry Pikesley. Barry says, in a press release issued on May the 3rd, Lawrence Looney stated that off the pitch, we are strengthening our operations through the appointment of a chief executive officer. As Mr. Hamdan has reportedly now relinquished his position, does the board intend to appoint a replacement CEO in the near future?
I can pick that one up, Bill.
Yep.
Interesting point, Barry. I think Gibran Hamdan was never officially appointed as CEO, so he hasn't relinquished an official position. Is the straight answer for that. Are we looking for a CEO? Yes, it's all part of our 3-year business plan and strategic review. And as Bill alluded to earlier, that search is ongoing. We've got to find the right person with the right blend, who's got both the capability and the bandwidth to implement the plan that we're putting together as a board. So yeah, I mean, a really straightforward answer to that one. I think Gibran came in over the summer, as many people were aware, and question earlier, did some fantastic work for us. There's an opportunity he may well do further work for us at some point in the future. That's been well documented. So we thank him for his efforts. And we'll continue pushing forward with our own agenda and our own plan. So if you've got anything to add to that, Bill.
No, I think the governance model of this club will evolve, for sure. It will evolve, and as we grow and we can afford to do more financially, we will. We know that, as we've said a few times through this, that our off the field evolution has not come as far as our on the field evolution, and it needs to catch up. And we will continue to explore every opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, John. And thanks to Sam and to Chris for answering all of those questions. That's been a long haul, but thank you for sending in those questions. And now all there is to say is let's look forward to Saturday afternoon, Maidstone United attending the J. Davidson Stadium for our first National League game of the season, our first game as a full-time club. It's an historic occasion. Everyone's very, very excited. The excitement is almost palpable from everybody at the club and the fan base as well. So it's a hugely important weekend, and we'll look forward to Saturday's game and hopefully 3 points. And as Bill has just said, we're making massive strides on the pitch. We're also making massive strides off the pitch, some of which take a little bit longer than we would like. But this club is moving forward very, very at a real pace and making massive progress. And hopefully you can all see that the future for Altrincham Football Club is very, very positive indeed. Thanks for watching this YouTube premiere video, and let's look forward to a great weekend and hopefully 3 points against Maidstone United.